Good evening. It is what is this, October Equipped Live, and I am Jackie Krafchek. I will be walking you through this conversation with Greg Winter. The topic for today is opportunities to move from satisfactory underperformance to success to significance. So we will talk with Greg about what each of those means and sort of the methods and ways that you can move through those three different sort of tiers, I guess we'll call it. But let's go ahead and get Greg live on the screen. Hey, Greg, I see you have your business person Halloween costume on today, so it's nice to see that you're festive.
Well, good evening. Thank you.
I'm also not in costume, so we were both on the same page with that. So you heard me, I introduced the topic, and I thought the first thing we would talk about is maybe defining each of those terms. So what does satisfactory underperformance mean? What does success mean? And then what does significance mean within the realm of the IFMC?
Sure. Let me start with maybe just trying to set up a little bit of context here. So if we talk about that title again of opportunities to go from satisfactory underperformance to success to significance, the opportunity part of it really is enhanced right now with the volatility that we see in the markets. And for the IFMC, that really comes primarily from the green energy initiatives, the tremendous growth in artificial intelligence, and unfortunately the wars that are going on. And that volatility tends to disrupt business as usual. So for companies that and individuals that are not real good at adaptability, they're probably not going to do as well. But for highly adaptable, high achieving organizations and people, that volatility creates tremendous opportunity. And so that's the opportunity part. If we look at now the satisfactory underperformance, success, significance, I like to begin with the end in mind, so I'll start with the significance. And my view of achieving significance for the IFMC really is achieving the mission and the vision of the IFMC. And in that document, in the mission and the vision, the things that I think are really appropriate here are the words economic well-being, quality of life, unprecedented success of loyal stakeholders. And so that's how I view significance. If we talk a little bit about success, I look at that as consistently exceeding the key metrics. And while the IFMC has some metrics, IBUs have other metrics, individuals have others. There's too many to really talk about right here at this point. But I think the way to know if you're seeing success is basically if we're getting significant bonus distributions, and that's a pretty good indicator of success. Satisfactory underperformance means that we're meeting the minimum expectations of the stakeholders. And in venture capital investing, that typically is considered lifestyle culture. So you've got businesses that essentially are performing business as usual in a relatively normal environment, and that's okay, except that if what comes out of that lifestyle culture is that there's more of a focus on the lifestyle that your work affords you, and maybe a little bit less focus on the customers. And so if you're not as alert to changing customer needs, changes in the market, then you're going to get surprised by things that happen, particularly in a volatile market. And when those changes happen and you haven't really been preparing for it, haven't really been thinking about it, you tend to be surprised, you tend to go on defense. And I don't think I need to explain to anybody that most sports, you don't put points on the board by playing defense. You put those on the board by being on offense. And so that lifestyle culture in a volatile environment or a volatile market is risky, and you can risk failure during those times.
So, how would someone really know where they're at in that, sort of three-part or three-tier structure that you just talked about? I use one of the statistics frequently when I coach on emotional intelligence. There's a statistic that says as many as 90% of people believe they are self-aware, when the reality is only 10 to 15% truly are. So how can someone truly know where they are? They may believe they're exceeding key metrics, but really just meeting those minimum expectations. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a really good question, good topic. Uh, self-awareness, self-assessment is really hard, and there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and that really was based on a couple studies that were done. The first one was in the late 70s, and they ended up studying a number of professors, and they had the professors rate themselves compared to their peers within the university. And 94% of those professors self-assessed as being in the top 50%. Well, that's kind of hard. That math don't work.
Nope.
And then there was another study done with a software company, and they did it a little bit differently, but the results of that were that 32% of the software employees thought that they fit in the top 5% of performers, which again, the math just doesn't work. And so it's pretty hard to self-assess, but the things I would recommend are to focus on things that are quantitative, things that you can measure. Also focus on qualitative, but when you're looking at the qualitative, you really have to be trying to get feedback from others and looking for ways to understand what others are seeing. And so, and with the quantitative, at the individual level, are you getting pay increases? Are you getting significant bonuses? If you are, that's a good indicator that, a quantitative indicator that, yeah, you're probably doing okay. Uh, on the qualitative side, yeah, again, it's tough because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, but you can ask yourself, are you always finding yourself kind of on the defense where you're surprised by things and you're now trying to defend your position or not lose anything? And if that's the case, it's not 100%. I mean, everybody's going to find themselves in that spot, but if that's a consistent theme, it's probably that probably means you're in a lifestyle type arrangement, or you're at that lower level where it's satisfactory underperformance. Another question you can ask yourself, are you an informal go-to person? So are people seeking you out voluntarily, not because of your position or your position power, but are they informally seeking you out because you're able to help them? And if they are, that's, you're probably flirting with the success level. Uh, if there's a waiting list for you to help people because people are seeking you out, that's another pretty good indicator. Uh, and do people tell you that you've been very helpful to them, or maybe even that you've changed their life? And if that kind of stuff is happening, that's probably significance.
Yeah, that would definitely be a indicator of significance for sure, if you've changed someone's life for the better. So if somebody really does want to move from satisfactory underperformance to success, or from success to significance, and in my opinion, we should all want to move upwards and grow in our lives. But if somebody's honest with themselves about where they currently are and they want to continue to improve, what are some strategies that they can engage in to move from one of those sort of tiers to another?
Boy, Jackie, I know you know this. I mean, but there's no shortage of self-help books and programs to help people improve themselves. I think the one that's probably relevant here, and one of my favorites, is the hedgehog concept, where you've got the three overlapping circles, where one of your circles includes the things you're passionate about, another circle includes what you're best at, and the third circle includes the economic opportunities that exist for you. And if you if you focus on those sorts of things, those three circles, and you focus on understanding that, uh, I think that's a very, very helpful strategy for team members of the IFMC. With the circle for passion, really that's something each individual needs to do on their own. They need to figure out what it is they're passionate about. With what they're best in the world at, that's kind of where the Dunning-Kruger effect might need to be considered here. And so you can certainly try to figure that out, and you should try to figure that out on your own, but you probably ought to be talking to your peers, talking to your leaders, trying to get a realistic assessment of what it is you really are good at. And then with the economic opportunities, of course, the IFMC is full of those. And really the economic opportunities, the way I always describe that is, we are in the business of solving problems for our customers. And so each of those problems tend to have a lot of little subsets, and those are just littler problems, but somebody needs to solve all those. So as you're trying to discover the economic opportunities for you, if you focus on finding a common pattern with a particular problem, and you get really good at solving it, that's one way to now become an informal go-to person and climb through those steps. And in a volatile market where you've got the lifestyle companies that are going to find themselves in trouble, uh, this is a problem-rich environment. And so it really makes it easier for highly adaptable high achievers that are trying to climb through those levels.
Yeah, and if I would just add one note to that, is really it's all about continuing to learn. So even if you're good at something now, you're not the best at it in the world. You can get better and, dig into your passion and continue to learn and grow in your passion. And that's just going to increase your movement through in growth in your movement in your career. So this will be the last question because we're almost at the end of our time. What does this sort of growth through these different levels mean to the different stakeholders of the IFMC? So we're really talking kind of about employees within the IFMC, but what about all the other stakeholders? What could this mean to them?
Well, each stakeholder has a different answer for that, and they're all on their own kind of unique journeys, and they're involved for different reasons. So it's hard to just come up with one blanket answer. But if I try to do that, if we look at history, one of the things that has proven out for hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, since there have been social groups and since there have been organizations, uh, typically the common theme is that high levels of competency tend to cause that person to be elevated to some position of significance. And so really it's about again, the hedgehog concept, finding that overlap and practicing that and continually working at that, continually striving to enlarge the overlap of your hedgehog circle. And I think the other thing that really indicates the where we're trying to go is in the mission and vision, the IFMC mission and vision, where we talk about economic well-being, quality of life, unprecedented success for loyal stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. The better, the more that there is growth in movement into the success and significance levels, the better off for all loyal stakeholders. So they all get value from that. So it's definitely something that individual members of the IFMC within the IFMC should be focused on and want to increase their value in those ways. So interesting topic. We could have a long conversation, as we could with all of these topics. We could have a much longer conversation, but we're out of time. So do you have any final comments about this?
Well, my hope would be that each and every person that's listening to this, enlarges their hedgehog overlap. They embrace the volatility of the current markets, and that they achieve significance.
Absolutely. And speak with their leader about it. If they aren't sure what they can do or where they're at, talk to their leader and have real conversations about it. So, Greg, as always, thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, but we do appreciate it. So you are welcome to go engage in your Halloween festivities now.
Well, thank you, Jackie, and thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye, everybody.